Hey again, guys. Fred Kynes, AKK Classics. You know, I say that, AKK, but all kinds of classics. So I should say AK of Classics. Whatever. Anyway, this one is episode 35. We are designing the fuel tank. Now, we've got the tank rolled, but we need to make sure it fits into the frame and that I get the effective end caps and baffles made for it. So at this point, I'm doing a lot of fit up. I'm doing a lot of comparison to the original tank because the original tank keys off of some locations, the filler tube and the the fuel level. I'm doing a different fuel level, but it kind of helps direct me to where I can access those through the rear frame panel. So take a look at this video and throw in any suggestions or comments that you have, but also a little bit of follow up on the from the last video on how I'm progressing with the rear differential. There is frustration involved with the manner in which I'm receiving the replacement parts and how the conversations, uh, with clear expectations and how they fail. This happens a lot in industry, and whether it's communication gaps or just simply customer service that isn't educated or conditioned to be able to clearly understand what their customer is asking them. It goes both ways, but the fact of the matter is, I am frustrated because I'm trying as best I can to get this whole situation under control with this rear axle. But there is the end is imminent, and we will be able to move forward. It's just interrupting. So enjoy.
Again, guys. Okay, so what we got here is we got the fuel tank. We took a look at that a little bit in the last video or two ago. So this edge and this edge are butt edges. Dimensionally, this is a 3/4 inch overlap. Let me grab the drawing here. Okay, we're looking at the opposite side on the drawing, but basically this is the bend print and this is the profile, and right here we've got a 0.99, pardon me, 0.76 overlap. Actually, it's 0.99, 1 inch overlap on the bottom of this profile for the butt. Now, that's as per the original setup. And the tank sits in so that this is horizontal, and then it clears the frame where it sits up into the different steps in the frame. At this point now we have the physical tank here, and if I can get that butt joint on the end of there, it's more capacity in the tank. Today, as we formed it, these were all broke ends, and then this was broke with a 1 inch die. It's not exactly this radius. It doesn't need to be exactly that radius, but we can see if I clock this down, this could be a little bit sharper bend. This could get pushed down, but basically within this bend, I could push this down, and I've got some down on the bottom. If I clock it up just a little bit, I can move, and then I have to push this one in, push this one down. So you can see that pretty much I'm minimizing the amount of effort that I need to put into it. Now you got to remember, well, why don't you just do all those angles in the brake? Well, this is an acute angle, and we started here, then this one, excuse me. We then went to this one, and struggled with this one. I had to dolly it out just a little bit because we were holding the edges up, because pretty soon your piece is interfering with your machine. So I would much rather get like in, where was I at? Into this realm, right, where was I at? Right here, into this realm right here. That's fine, as long as it fits. If it doesn't, I'll push it a little bit. But I can push right here, trying to close this radius and that gap down there. I don't need to be perfectly this shape, but I would like a relatively flat bottom, and I would like to close this angle a little bit. So I'm going to start pushing on it. And how am I going to push on it? Set the thing, I'll get a towel, set it on the floor, and start with my knees and my feet and everything else, and constantly checking back and forth with this. And we'll come back and take a look at how it looks. Okay, there's a picture of the, just a moment here. There's a picture of the original gas tank, and now it's bent and it's folded over. And, you know, cancer has taken its toll. That's the bottom of the tank. The fill is right there, those kinds of things. So, and then there's where I'm at so far with some pushing. You can see that the tank, if I get a good angle on it, it's so far, let me grab a tape measure. So you can see I'm closing the gap up considerably. And one thing I didn't mention is this here was a 6-inch roller, and the radius is under 3 inches, but you can't get a 2 13/16, but you certainly can't get a 5 7/8 roller. So right now on the original tank, we had, just measuring off the lip, about a 12.5-inch overall length. Here you can see, 12.5 is up there, but we're getting out there to 14 inches. And that's because this tank, of course, radius is down and it's just an egg. So I'm trying to get as much capacity as I can in this tank and the space allowed. And so you can see that's why I went up underneath the frame instead of clipping that radius and coming underneath the frame and then coming in 2 inches, nearly 2 inches in. So I'm going for as much capacity as I can get. This step here is a step as a result of me dropping the body. I know I've showed this, but right there, because I dropped that whole platform down, that it's like 9/16 or 3/4 of an inch, 5/8, I guess, of an inch. And then dropped this down into the radius and then re-welded everything on. And that allowed the body to, this channel right here, this back part of the body, to drop down, knowing I had to cut out for the frame. So we're almost ready for test fitting. And this is online, looking at replacement tanks for this, which would be made out of steel, is 11.5 gallons. I calculate this at 12.3. My son, who drafted this in SolidWorks or Inventor, one of those, anyway, obviously can take the area and said it's I didn't write it down. We were on the phone, but it's not 12.3. It's 11 something. But regardless, it's as big as I'm going to be able to get into there. I could have played more with coming farther out here, but I'm not going to. I am going to try to incorporate that 1-inch overlap as I try test it into the frame. I'm going to continue to flex it until I can get these two pieces to meet when I remove the straps. So again, strapped up, and I have loosened them, and I am pushing. I'll continue those increments until I can get a profile that I like. Then I'll test it in the vehicle. So it is coming along quite nicely. I'm very happy with it. And again, that is not the finished end cap profile. Tracing this and cutting it to the exact, cutting it out to the inside dimensions of the finished product is the profile. So on this tank, I'm going to make two interior baffles, a third of the way in and 2/3 of the way in, depending on which side you're looking at. And those will hold the shape as well. So we'll get to that as we get to that, but we are making some significant progress. More as I get my knees into it again. Okay, I think I'm going to stop right there because I am so close. Oh, I'm going to lose it. So we got a little bit of a gap there, not overly concerned about it. Remember, this is the frame. This is the frame. And so I'm turning sooner and I'm hanging lower. Now this was horizontal. This is the back of the tank. I just don't know. You know, I can push more on this, but what I'd like to do at this time is test it. Stick it in the car because it's a very nice, there's a little bit here from the floor. Very, very hard to see. If I get over the top of it. He looks like maybe he flattens a little bit here. And I don't want to be pushing too much to cause that. You can see I've pinched this radius in this area. It's what I wanted to do. I got a larger radius, so I'm under the smaller radius there, so I'm pretty confident this will fit in the frame. So at this time now I'm gonna check it in the frame. No welding, no tacking, none of that stuff. I'm just gonna check it in the frame. We'll see what we got. Okay, we can remember this old tank. Of course, I have to figure out what I'm going to do for that and that. I got the fuel pump actually going to be here Thursday and sending unit, so I can mark out those holes. But I mocked it in. There's the side profile. You can see she comes to the front edge of the frame, right there. The seam is, where am I at here? There's the seam. He's in the zip code, and I got a little bit, see? So when I butt that together, both sides, okay, from the rear it looks pretty well like the factory tank. Not that this car will be anything close to looking factory, but I'll have my ground clearance and it'll stainless steel, God, that'll look so cool. Anyway, I just took it up and strapped it. There's my my step. Then he runs under up to that. I had a little interference. He was butted right there. Then it folds it down. Then it comes out to right there. A little different profile of it. So that's a pretty sexy looking deal. I love it. I love it. So don't know, back in the day they just rolled them and put on the top side, put a seam on it, regular steel used, probably filled with solder, and then capped it. I lost a half of an inch on this both ends for capacity, because that'll be capped and tigged all the way around. That seam will be tigged, and then I'll begin marking out for the sending units. I got a lot of thinking to do on the sending units because of that relief. That body's sitting a quarter of an inch above this because the pads are a quarter of an inch. This was all body was set flush on the mounts, marked off, and that channel built. So as you can see, I'm going to have to do some figuring. I might have to relocate the sending units to the center, something like that. And it probably is prudent to even go into the center, because then I know this body sweeps a little bit. It's hard to see, but it sweeps a little bit. It is relatively straight in the center, but with some dimensioning, I think I can find some real estate in the middle. It all depends on how big that guy is. If I need to, move it in, I've got that shelf right there. I can take some of that out. Sending unit and the pump. If I can get the pump in, if I can get everything below the surface here, that's, win-win. Of course, doing this, you always want to have plenty of clearance, and you got to remember you got to get the hoses in and all that kind of goofy stuff. So, my mind is just racing right now because I'm very, very, very happy with how that looks. I love it. Now the exhaust, the plan was for the exhaust to come out here. Of course, the fender's way out here, but to stay away from the tank. But that exhaust will come out, and maybe I'll just dollop it off right there. Here's the end of the body, but it'll certainly come to the end of the chassis, wherever the bumper's going to be. I do have the rear apron right there. It's a damaged apron, but I have it for mock-up purposes, just to get things all dialed in and get my length. But I'll probably lop off my exhaust and put tips on it. I did order the exhaust. I ordered a kit, four bends, 490s, 4 U's, 4, and some straight sections. And so when I get the engine back in, I plan on, again, this chassis is going to be a rolling chassis. So when I get the frame filled, then I'll set the engine in and start building the exhaust out, front to rear. I don't know what I'm going to do for connecting points yet. I obviously have to brake here and somewhere behind here so the mufflers can be taken out. Don't know yet. Don't know, but obviously it'll be serviceable. Everything will be serviceable, but I'd like to get that routed again. The chassis will be able to fire up before the body is permanently mounted to it. The body will go on and off of it a gazillion times, but wow, pretty excited. Pretty excited. A little bit frustrated. I received the new axle in the RMA today. There's the axle. It is longer. That's one that's got to be returned. That's the new one. It's splined down. The splines are cut 8 inches, and this is cut an inch longer than that. So, that's all fine. But I said, give me the retaining plate. There's a spacer in here.
the bearing and seal, and the locking collar for the axle. No problem. We'll just throw them all in the box, just return it. And I even said, do you want me to remove those, cut those off for you? No. Just leave it as an assembly. We'll take care of it from there. They send me the axle, and they send me the bearing races, the end flanges, these things. A new set of those that aren't even, I mean, the depth is the same. It's just a different brand. But I mean, why? What did I do? I didn't cause this. So I'm back to square one. I'm thinking about going to the flipping parts store. And I will obviously cut those off to save that. It just doesn't math out. Oh, what to do. I just checked tracking, and out for delivery is the hose for the rear end. I took the liberty this morning to weld on hose, or not weld on, bolt on a hose retainer. I got my brake tubing over there. I got a piece of brake tubing hanging out there. And, no progress update on the axles other than they did ship. I sent pictures of the pieces that I physically need. So I'll be shipping those back and that back. And I'll get all that stuff down there to put on this one here. And then I'll stud it out and assemble it. But I can assemble that with the rear end in. So the exciting news is that once I get this line run and that the lug on for the hose, for the brake hose, the flexible brake line, then I will mount that into the chassis, satisfy the connection from here to there, and begin on the tank. What did come in the mail, tracking number was never received a ship status, so they never provided an update. But was that? Well, two of them, but I mean, basically, some stainless MIG. I did get 30 thou wire, which is a little heavy for 18 gauge. Not too heavy, but a little heavy for 18 gauge. But for all intents and purposes, all I'm doing is going to tack, because this will all be MIG welded. But I have my preferred skill at this point is MIG, so I'm tacking it up for others to TIG it. However, another reason why I got two spools is I'm going to try my hand at some 18 or 16 gauge stainless, flat, bevel or angle, so on and so forth, welding positions, because I have done it, and I've welded 16 gauge stainless in the past, and with good results. I made a tank that didn't leak, believe it or not, solvent tank actually, a very large one. But when the exhaust is also coming, and that I do want to TIG weld the connections on that, and I want them to look good. So that's where I'm going to, the extra spool comes in, because I have 30 thou wire that I can use as feeder for TIG welding. I'm not comfortable doing a fuel tank yet, and know your limits, know what you don't know. And although I have TIGged in the past, I'm not willing to take it on a project that involves a significant amount of stainless steel, and quite frankly could be relatively catastrophic. Now I may MIG in the baffles and the tray and everything on the interior side, because retention isn't going to be an issue with the MIG. Cosmetics and sealing is an issue with the MIG, so that's why it needs to be TIG welded, and TIG welded by an expert. So there you have it. Quick pitch for the day, but parts are starting to flow in today, and I will get back on the project. Well, as expected,
The package just came. 2.5-inch stainless steel exhaust kit. There's a lot of pipe in there. There's a lot of pipe. But that winds up being all the bends and stuff, and there will be extra, but that winds up being the exhaust system. I had purchased that off of Amazon. And then from Summit, Walbro pump, with the flow characteristics, the volume and pressures that I needed for this application. Fuel sending unit, and Jeep happened to have the 3/8/24 inlets that I so desire, and the type of connector that I want for the other side to go on there. So 16 inches, he'll sit up here about in the middle and feed back to the connection through here, through there on the frame. So very, very satisfied. The day is only getting better, and we're almost at the weekend. Yay!